My name is Stafford Lightman, and I am Professor of Medicine at the University of Bristol. Welcome to my exp. My particular interest is how the environment affects the brain and allows us to adapt to changes in the environment that are going on. And the way the brain can do this is by sensing what is going on in the environment about us. Now, there are many ways to do this, and what's really fascinating about the brain is that it anticipates what's going on in the world, and it adapts to the idea of what it is expecting to happen in the future. And that means that it is in the best position to function in its optimal state when a particular situation arises. If you are woken up at about 2 in the morning and somebody asks you a really complicated mathematical question, certainly speaking for myself, I would be pretty useless. My brain wouldn't be working very well. It wouldn't be it wouldn't be working at maximum function. But once I've woken up, actually the second you wake up, your brain is actually functioning really quite well. And there are various reasons for this, and this is the sort of thing that really interests me, is why at that particular time it can then function well. And we have done work with our colleagues who look at the way synapses work, so the way nerve cells talk to each other in areas of the brain which are important for memory, such as the area called the hippocampus. And they find that if they do studies on synaptic plasticity, the way these cells talk to each other, if they do these studies, the equivalent of first thing in the morning in a rat, remembering a rat is nocturnal, so these would be studies which would be done in the late afternoon when a rat is normally waking up. They find that the synaptic plasticity at that time of day is very different from the time of day when a rat would normally be asleep. So it basically means that the part of the brain, the hippocampus, which is the part of the brain which is important for memory, functions differently at different times of day. We have been able to take apart what is actually going on in this situation by altering the amount of cortisol and the pattern of cortisol that the brain sees at different times of day. And what we find is that if we change the pattern, so this is the pulsatile oscillating levels of cortisol, if we change these patterns of cortisol, then the hippocampus responds in a different way. And so it means that late at night, before you wake up, these great surges in cortisol that you get then are preparing your hippocampus, is preparing your brain to be ready for all the things that it's going to need to do during the next day. So whether it is going to do some complex mathematical equation, or whether you need to go out hunting and you need to be absolutely prepared for all the things that are going to be happening to you that day, whatever it is that you're going to be using your brain for is better prepared. So this interaction of the brain with the hormone axis is actually critical for making sure that your brain is doing the right thing for you at the right time. And we find that if we disrupt that, so we artificially change your pattern of hormones, then the brain doesn't like it at all and then functions really badly. And we've done this not only in animals, but we've also done it in humans. And basically what we find is that if we iron out the oscillations, so we give a totally smooth pattern of cortisol throughout the day, and then we test people's memory and we test how they function, we find several things. First, we find that they sleep less well. So if you don't have these oscillating patterns of cortisol, your sleep is disturbed. That's one thing. Then if we assess how good their memory is, what we find is if we do simple memory tests, so simple memory tests are really quite good. But if we do more complex memory tests, people who have lost their oscillating level of cortisols, they don't function as well. Their memory just isn't as good as it should be. And then actually what's more important to me is emotions, because cortisol is really important for your emotional responses. And if we get rid of your fluctuating levels of cortisol, we find people's emotional responses are much poorer. And interestingly, what we find is we see a pattern very similar to what happens in depression. And we find that when we change from a very smooth to a normal oscillating response, people have a much better emotional response to stimuli. So, for instance, they recognize happy faces much better.